Ever since a pair of Bugatti Chiron headlights showed up in Matt Armstrong's rebuild, they've raised serious eyebrows across the automotive world. If you've been following this project, you already know it hasn't exactly followed the rulebook. But this chapter might be the strangest one yet. Come closer, because there's a question here that the entire automotive world still can't answer. Who actually supplied those headlights? A private jet? A secret European location? A supplier whose face was blurred out? A 1-hour window to grab the parts and go? And a pair of genuine Chiron headlights for just €10,000, a fraction of Bugatti's own price. CEO Mate Rimac has said the real cost is around $25,000 per headlight or $50,000 for the full system. So how did Matt walk away with both for a tenth of that? The community has been pointing fingers ever since, but this mystery runs deeper than price. Let's break it down. Start with what we actually know, straight from Matt Armstrong's own footage. Not speculation, not rumor, just what happened on camera. Matt needed a pair of Chiron headlights for Alex G's rebuild after the originals were destroyed in the crash. Some sellers online were asking as much as $150,000 for a replacement pair, which was never a realistic option. And Bugatti itself wasn't selling to Matt at all, official channels or otherwise. Then someone reached out, a contact in Europe who claimed they could get the parts, on one condition: no filming, no identification. Matt's answer was to book a private jet. He and the team flew out, met the contact at an undisclosed location, collected the parts, and had exactly 1 hour on the ground before the jet needed to leave without them. Throughout the whole exchange, the supplier's face stayed blurred, their identity never revealed. The price for 2 genuine Chiron headlights, €10,000. That combination, genuine parts, a blurred face, a chartered jet, and a 1-hour deadline, was never going to stay quiet. Once the video went up, the internet went straight into detective mode, and the theories started piling up almost immediately. Some were wild, some were oddly plausible, and a few kept coming back again and again in the comments. Let's walk through the main ones. The comments split into a handful of recurring camps. Some viewers were convinced Rimac himself was behind it. Others suspected someone inside Bugatti acting alone. A few floated the idea that Bugatti, as a company, had quietly greenlit the sale without ever admitting it publicly. And plenty more just repeated some version of, "Wonder if Rimac supplied the lights," phrased a dozen different ways. Let's take each of those seriously, one at a time. The boldest theory making the rounds is that Bugatti's own CEO was the secret supplier. More than one commenter floated it outright, and it's easy to see why the idea is so tempting. Rimac has been publicly skeptical of the rebuild from the start, at one point insisting the airbags Matt used couldn't possibly be the correct ones, before Matt went on to prove him wrong. A CEO who publicly doubted a project, then privately helped it succeed anyway, is a great story. It's also almost certainly not true. Rimac runs a global company with shareholders, legal exposure, and a brand image to protect. The idea of him personally arranging a secret meeting, flying out, handing over parts with his face blurred, and sending Matt on his way just doesn't hold up to basic scrutiny. This is the one that actually holds together. Bugatti employs hundreds of people across engineering, parts, and logistics, and not everyone inside a company agrees with every public decision that comes from the top. Plenty of those employees are car enthusiasts in their own right, and it's entirely reasonable to think some of them have been watching this rebuild just as closely as the rest of us. Picture someone with legitimate access to Chiron parts who followed the rebuild, admired what Matt was doing, and wanted the project to succeed. Someone willing to sell a pair of headlights off the books, quietly and without any paper trail leading back to them. That would explain almost everything. The blurred face, the refusal to be named, the urgency of the handoff, and even the price. €10,000 isn't Bugatti's official rate, but it's not so cheap it looks like a scam either. Out of every theory floating around, this is the one that checks nearly every box. A more elaborate version of the same idea is that Bugatti, as a company, arranged the sale quietly, publicly distancing itself from the rebuild while privately making sure it succeeded behind the scenes. The logic goes something like this. A beautifully finished, independently rebuilt Chiron is actually good advertising. It shows just how well-engineered Bugatti's components really are, crash or no crash, And maybe someone inside the company recognized that. It's a clever theory, but it asks Bugatti to run two contradictory strategies at the same time, public skepticism and private support, without ever getting caught doing both. Without any real evidence behind it, it stays firmly in the realm of speculation. Putting it all together, the most likely explanation is that the supplier was someone connected to the Bugatti world, but not acting on Bugatti's behalf. The blurred face, the secrecy, the rushed handoff, the private jet, and the price all point to the same conclusion. Someone with real, legitimate access to genuine parts who simply couldn't afford to be publicly linked to the sale. Not a corporate decision. Not a CEO going rogue. Just one person, quietly making a choice that official channels never would have allowed. But the identity ultimately matters less than what this whole episode reveals about Bugatti's parts policy. Whether the supplier was an employee, an independent specialist, or a private collector, the fact that Matt had to charter a jet, fly across Europe, meet a stranger in secret, and complete the entire exchange in an hour just to buy a pair of headlights says a lot about how hard Bugatti makes it to source parts for an independent rebuild. If Bugatti simply sold parts to legitimate owners and rebuilders through normal channels, none of this cloak and dagger routine would have been necessary. Matt could have placed an order like anyone else. Instead, the secrecy turned a simple parts purchase into one of the most talked about moments of the entire build, generating far more attention than a straightforward, above-board sale ever would have. Whoever decided to keep Bugatti's parts locked down probably never expected that decision itself to become the story. But that's exactly what happened. The mystery of the supplier ended up being more compelling than the headlights themselves. Whatever the real story behind the supplier, the parts themselves were genuine and they worked. Back in the shop, Matt installed them on Alex's Chiron. The main headlights lit up immediately, and once the rear modules were wired in, the signature running light squares glowed exactly as they should. For a rebuild that Rimac himself once suggested couldn't be finished independently, getting the car's real face back is a fitting chapter in a project that keeps proving him wrong. Nothing about this rebuild has followed a normal path, from the Audi-sourced airbags, to the hidden components borrowed from elsewhere in the Volkswagen Group, to a pair of headlights bought in secret from someone who refused to be seen. Why would the headlights be any different? So here's the open question. Who do you think actually supplied those headlights? Was it someone so closely connected to the Bugatti world that revealing their identity would expose an even bigger story than the one we've seen so far? Drop your theory in the comments, because right now, this mystery still doesn't have a confirmed answer. And if you've enjoyed following along with this rebuild, stick around, because if this project has taught us anything, it's that the next surprise is never far away.